Hey everyone, and welcome. Today we're going to talk about one of the most important, yet almost completely invisible systems that makes the entire internet just work. It's called the Domain Name System, or DNS for short. And honestly, it's the unsung hero running in the background every single time you go online. By the end of this, you'll see why it's so incredibly crucial.
All right, so here's the game plan. First, we'll get into what DNS actually is, the magic phone book of the internet. Then, we'll follow the wild, super-fast journey a single request takes around the world. After that, we'll clear up a really common point of confusion, registrars versus providers. Then we'll decode some of the secret language inside DNS, and we'll wrap up with how you can make your own internet experience way faster and a whole lot safer.
So, let's kick things off with this idea of a magic phone book. This really gets to the heart of why DNS was invented in the first place. And trust me, it saves us from a huge headache.
I mean, think about it. It's something we all do probably hundreds of times a day without even blinking. You type a name, you hit enter, and bam, a website just appears. But that one simple action kicks off this incredible high-speed chain of events that happens behind the scenes. And here it is, the core problem. On the left, you've got a name that's easy for us humans to remember, like fireship.io. But on the right, you have what computers actually need to talk to each other, a very specific numerical IP address. We think in words, machines think in numbers, and without some kind of translator, they just can't communicate. And that translator? That's DNS. The best way to think about it really is like the contacts app on your phone. You don't memorize every single phone number, right? You just tap on a name. Well, DNS does that for the entire internet. It's this massive, worldwide phone book that looks up the right number for any website you want to visit.
Okay, so now that we know what DNS does, let's actually see how it all works. We're about to trace the incredible journey of a single DNS query, from the second you hit enter to the moment your browser gets the magic number it needs.
And you know, this whole thing happens in a literal blink of an eye. So first, your computer asks what's called a recursive resolver. Think of it as a super helpful librarian to find the IP address. The resolver then kicks off a kind of relay race. It asks a root server, which says, I don't know the full address, but I know it's a .com domain, so go talk to them. Then the resolver asks the TLD server for .com, which says, okay, I know who's in charge of that specific website, go ask their server. And finally, the resolver reaches the authoritative name server. This is the final source of truth, the one that has the actual IP address. It hands it back, and your browser can finally connect.
Okay, next up, let's clear up something that trips a lot of people up. The difference between a DNS registrar and a DNS provider. They sound kind of the same, but they do two totally different jobs. And this analogy is just perfect. Think of the registrar as the city's title office. It's where you go to officially claim ownership of your domain name. It's the deed to your digital property. But the provider? That's the GPS service. They hold the actual directions, the DNS records, that tell all the internet traffic how to find your server. Now here's the confusing part. A lot of registrars will offer to be your provider too, but for any serious website, you'll often want to keep those roles separate for way better performance and security.
So why does this even matter? Well, it's a huge deal. Your choice of DNS provider has a massive impact. A slow provider makes your website feel sluggish, and you know people don't stick around for that. If your DNS provider goes down, your entire online presence, your website, your email, everything just vanishes. Poof. And a good provider is your first line of defense against attacks that can knock you offline or even worse, send your visitors to dangerous sites.
All right, let's pop the hood and go one level deeper. We're going to look at the actual instructions inside that digital phone book. These are called DNS records, and they tell internet traffic exactly where it needs to go for all kinds of different services. Okay. Let's just run through the most common ones. The A record is the most basic. It just points a name directly to a numerical IP address. A C name record is like a nickname or an alias. It points one name to another name. MS records are absolutely essential for email. They tell the internet where to send your mail. And TXT records are kind of like a digital sticky note. They can hold all sorts of text, usually for verification or security stuff. And let's just quickly zero in on the difference between an A record and a C name, because this is a classic point of confusion. The A record, as you see here, is a direct map. This name equals this number. Simple. A C name, though, is a pointer. It basically says, hey, if you're looking for my blog, just go find the address for this other service. It's super useful when you're using a third-party platform where the IP address might change without you knowing. And finally, let's talk about how you can actually take control of your own DNS experience. See, by default, you're just using whatever your internet company gives you.
But you have other, better options that can seriously speed up your browsing and make it a lot more secure.
So first, let's talk about the bad guys. An unsecured DNS can be abused to send you to a fake version of your bank's website to steal your password. That's called farming. Attackers can also hijack your requests to send you to malicious sites. Or they can just flood a DNS server with so much junk traffic that it collapses, taking thousands of websites down with it. So what can you do about it? The good news is there are 3 really powerful things. First, switch your DNS resolver. Services like Cloudflare's 1.1.1.1 or Quad9's 9.9.9.9 are totally free, usually way faster, and they automatically block you from going to known malicious sites. Second, turn on encrypted DNS. This basically hides your browsing history from your internet provider. And finally, there's DNSEC, which is like a digital signature that proves the response you got is the real deal and not from some imposter.
You know, I love this quote because it just absolutely nails it. DNS really is the foundation of your entire online world. When it's working perfectly, it's completely invisible. But the moment it's not, everything you've built on top of it starts to crumble.
And that kind of brings us to the final thought I want to leave you with. DNS is this fundamental, invisible layer of the internet we all just take for granted. So it's probably worth asking yourself, is that invisible infrastructure that runs your digital life as secure and private as it ought to be? Thanks for joining me on this one.